In the last video, we looked at the su command. Now we're going to look at the sudo command. Another way we can gain elevated privileges to the system to administer it in some way. Key a lot of people have is, what's the difference between these two? Well, the key difference between them is that the su command actually logs you in. It's shell oriented. So when I log in, I become root, I get root shell, and I can do whatever I want to do with the system. The sudo command, on the other hand, is command-oriented. So I do not switch to a brand new account. I stay exactly where I am. I am still student, but because I have actually, my account's been put into the sudoers file, I can run specific commands, and they can be all of them on the system, or it could be just a handful of commands if I want to. That's the key difference between them. One is literally su, puts you in a new shell with that user account. Sudo just lets you run a command. So for instance, and I'm going to show you this sudoers file, so I'll actually su, actually I'll do a sudo since we're talking about that. I'll do a sudo v sudo. This is actually the way you would edit the file that gives us all the privileges. Now here's the other thing that's different. When I su'd in as root, it wanted root's password, myslcc. Now it's asking me when I sudo, it's looking for a student's password. That's a big difference between the two. So if I go in here and I'm going to go all the way down to the bottom. Now, once again, what happened there is I ran a command, and that command sudo ran, and now I'm in here with root privileges. And the one thing I'll do is get rid of that account down there. I'm just playing around with that. And if we go up a little bit here, I'll talk about some of the things we're going to see. Okay, here I'll get rid of that one too. Here's what yours looks like by default. And basically what's happening here, there's lots of different parameters, but what's happening in here is, of course, root can do anything. And that's what that all equals all. Basically saying wherever you log in from, you can run any command from any place that you log into the system, whether it's remotely, TTY, sudo terminal, doesn't matter. The student account, once student gives its password, it basically gets all privileges to the system. You can also create, like an Ubuntu creates a group. In this case, we'll just use wheel as an example. Creates a group, puts the % sign in front of it, and puts members in the group. So in Ubuntu, it's the admin group. Then you put users in that. So when you create an account on the Ubuntu system, you become a member of admin, and therefore you pick up the same thing you're seeing right here through your group membership. That's another way of doing it. You can also see below that the wheel group, if you're a member of the wheel group, and by default root's the member of the wheel group, you could actually run all commands with no password at all. So that's another thing you can do. And as we scroll down here, once again, you can see if you're a member of the users group, which we don't have on here, these are examples of what you can do. So if you're a member of the users group, we can actually just give you specific commands that you can run. Not everything. You can only, in this case, unmount certain things. Or right below here, you see that the users can do a shutdown. So there are different levels of privilege that we can give users. Now, the interesting thing about this, I'll show you about the sudo command. I'll quit out of here. Don't want to make any changes. By default, when you first log in with the sudo command, your credentials are cached, and you no longer have to give a password to do something. For instance, I've just logged in with sudo vi sudo, and what I'll do now is type cat var log messages. Now I'm going to actually go over here, shift this, because I'm going to show you this also. This is kind of interesting. So if I do the same thing on this terminal, cat var log messages, it's going to come back and say, you know, permission denied. I cannot do that, well, because I have to put the sudo command in front of it. But if I sudo here, if I bring that command up, I'm hitting the up arrow to get my history back. If I put the sudo command in front of that and press it, it's asking me for my password. But let's go back over to this terminal where I've already sudoed in. I'll go in here and I'll put the sudo command in here, because I still have to issue sudo, and press enter. It runs it. Fascinating. I am in the same account. They're both students. This one did not have to put a password in, and this one does. And that's something unique about sudo. Sudo actually follows you based on what TTY or terminal you're logged into. So even though the same account is logged in here, that does not matter. It's basing it on, hey, that's a different TTY. You're going to have to authenticate, pal. And this one over here, it's actually going to cache it for 5 minutes. And we can change that if we want to, either longer or shorter. And I can show you that if I do a sudo, this is where sometimes sudo gets a little confusing, sudo v here. Right, basically I'm saying I don't have the privilege to run this, so I'm going to sudo into that and run that command. And what that will show me are the parameters based on sudo for this particular setup. Right around here somewhere in here, we should see something about timeout right up here. So authentication timeout in 5 minutes. After 5 minutes goes by, I will have to put a password into sudo from here. I can change that to anything I want. I can make it 2 minutes. I could make it forever if I want to, with a couple of changes to that sudo file that we were looking at. Now, there may be times when you're using sudo that you're about to leave the system and you realize, wait a second, I'm leaving my sudo cache available, and I don't want to do that. I actually want to wipe out the cache that holds my sudo information. So I will force the user, if somebody should sit here and they would have to put the password in, and hopefully they don't know my password, and so that would solve the problem. You can issue the sudo-k command to clear out your password. So if I just type sudo-k from here, and press enter, and then I try to go back in there and run that command, it's going to come back and ask me for the password, even though I still had my credentials cached, but I wiped them out with this command right here. So the sudo command is the command you really should be using as much as possible, because that's what typically will be used in many enterprise situations where you don't have full root privileges. You're just allowed to do certain administrative tasks. So definitely a command you want to become comfortable with, even though you'll see me use the su command all the time in the class, just because it's easier. All right, next we'll be going on and learning about some more things.